Welcome everybody to Zen Money Monday. I am so excited to be talking with Amber Lilyestrom today. I always say your last name wrong. Maybe you can redo that.
You're good. Lilyestrom. Yeah, you got it. It's all good.
And Amber has been working in the online space for several years, comes from a background in marketing and branding, and she's learned a lot and has grown a pretty incredible business. So I'm really excited to have you on the show today to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here, Liz. And I love that we're both, as I said on my podcast, having you on, that we're both Granite Staters here living in New Hampshire.
I know, such a small state, so much going on. If anyone
Yes.
wants to know more about New Hampshire, we are the people to talk to about that. You are New Hampshire born and bred, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. I was born in Boston, and then I grew up in Reading, Mass until I was about 9, and we moved to New Hampshire. But really, like life, I identify as a New Hampshireite, as you can see. I was actually Mrs. New Hampshire for a year. So I don't know if you knew that. Fun fact.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, I got the crown and everything. And I wasn't a pageant person, but I love to challenge myself to do things that are massively uncomfortable. And so a friend kind of dared me to do it, and I did it, and then I won, and I was like, oh Lord, now I have to actually do this, Did you have to show up at events and do the wave and everything? Yeah, I literally rode in a convertible in the Lee Town parade. It was a real barn burner, let me tell you. It was awesome.
I love that story. I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but I do think the whole I was challenged and I just went for it is such an inherent part of entrepreneurship. So I love that so much, because you do have to just kind of be like, all right, let's see what happens if, I put in an application. How did you get into owning your own business?
I will say that entrepreneurship has been kind of something that I have done for most of my life. And this is going to also this is like fun facts with Amber Day today. It's kind of funny. My mom and I started a business when I was 10 years old. And that business was actually, we raised Himalayan cats, Persian cats. And so I'm also a cat expert. And it's funny that my cat, who's not a Himalayan or Persian, he's a Cornish Rex, is sitting on my lap right now. But my mom and I, I learned how to raise cats. I learned how to show them, how to groom them, how to present them in the ring. I mean, the whole thing, I was going to try to be a judge. And I was on this little track as a little kid. And my mom laughs to this day because she said, Amber, you not only did you hand draw what ended up being the design for the business card, so the logo, I drew it and I created the name of our business, the whole thing, as a little branding visionary at 10 years old. My dad had it vectorized and made into a business card, but I also would do all the contracts. I designed the website for our little company. I would take all the photos of the kittens that we had for sale, and I would negotiate, I would actually sell. I knew how to position our whole setup to sell kittens. And I mean, I would make my mom $800, $900 selling these kittens. And I was really good at it. And so she laughs because she was like, we remember this one time we sold a kitten, and the guy he was a fellow breeder, and it was a $2,500 contract. And I was probably maybe 15 at this point. And she's like, and you were he tried to walk away, and you're like, nope, you need to sign the contract. And she's laughing about how I was so focused. So I always had that idea of creativity in business, and I liked doing it. It was really fun. It was very simple for me. And there was a lot of emotion involved in it. I remember times crying when the kitten would go to a new home because they were my babies, it was really emotional. But my mom still gets emails to this day, and we still show them occasionally, but we're not breeding cats anymore, doing that whole thing anymore. It's definitely not in my life plan here. But I remember people will email my mom and say, oh, so-and-so Fluffy, is just passed away at 20 years. And the most beloved animal in our life, and changed our world. And do you have any more kittens? My mom's like, no, I don't do this anymore. But what a beautiful story, to a legacy to be part of people's families and to help them. And so I learned about story and telling story. And so people say to me how do you know all these things? I started when I was 10 years old. Really, truly being an entrepreneur.
I love that story. And I love that not only were you the creative, impetus behind how to display and how to put yourself out there and how to brand it, but that you were taking care of the details? Like, no, you need to sign on the dotted line, which in today's world, it's such a fast, like, just pay me and we're good and And it's almost, people kind of go to the other side sometimes. And the fact that you were not only taking care of the front end of your house, but also very aware of the back end of your house.
And I was also the talent, right? So my mom would push me. The judge would say, can the owner of this cat come forth and please talk about your cat? And I remember being like an 11-year-old, shy. I used to be very shy. My mom would say, nope. And she would just stand there. She would like walk away. And she was like, no, you have, I'm like, Mom. And I would get so mad. And she's like, nope, you got to do it. And so she pushed me, and I would go up in front of a crowd of people. And of course, there's a kid, so everybody's like riveted. And I would talk about my cat, and people were like, how old is she? Because I was like a whiz, and so my public speaking career started really young too. And I laugh because it's like, I look back on all those things and I realize how much, this silly like cat show life thing trained me for this. But it also, the other thing that it taught me was about people and about empathy and about compassion, about understanding and understanding people from all different walks of life, of different, sexual preferences and diverse backgrounds, and about just all of it, mindset. There's a lot to be learned in this world, of this very interesting like world of the cat fancy, if you will. And I think I really learned a lot about people, about how to communicate, how to have compassion, how to not be judgmental, how to just be like really loving. And so, I mean, I'm so grateful for that part of my background. It's a funny part of my story. I don't always talk about it, but I'm glad we are today, because it really is part of what the trajectory of, especially how I serve today with coaching and understanding people. And of course, the back end of building out a business as well.
That's awesome. But you didn't necessarily stick with entrepreneurship right out of the gate. You worked in the university system.
Yeah, I did.
In New Hampshire, right?
Yep. So I was a Division I soccer player at UNH. And then after graduating, or in that like sort of summer when you're like, what am I doing with my life? I had applied to go to grad school because I just didn't know what I was going to do. And
that's what you're supposed to do. You don't know what you're going to do, get more schooling.
Yeah. So I was an English major, but I had concentrated in journalism. It didn't morally align for me, so I just didn't take that part of the degree. I just did all the coursework, but I just knew I wasn't meant to like chase ambulances and do the if it bleeds, it leads thing. Like, it just wasn't me. Mm-hmm. And I was a psychology minor, also a sports studies minor. And so ironically, not ironically, I suppose, an opportunity arose in the athletic department, which was my place I spent the most time, the place that I loved to be. I was a student leader of all the athletes when I was there as a captain of the team. So I was very involved in student leadership and supporting the student athletes on campus. And this job for the marketing coordinator came up. I read the job description and I remember thinking, I have no idea how to do like 90% of this. I didn't even know how many periods there were in a hockey game. I honestly did not know that, but I was like, I can learn anything. And I was into like graphics. I was very resourceful. I could create things. I had learned all of how to do that with my mom's in my business. And I just thought, you know what? Like, I think I can do this. I think I can learn it all. And I was always a person, I've never necessarily thought I was like a super, super intelligent, bright person, but I always knew how to work really hard. And I always knew how to like, get the answers and how to study and how to prepare myself. And so those values really served me. And I got the job. I was making $20,000 with zero benefits. I worked 60 hours a week, if not more, nights, weekends, all these events. I mean, over 100 events a year I was producing with my 15 student interns that I was now supervising, and helping them get course credit for it and helping them get careers. And it was a very high demand job, but I just really rose to the occasion. And every 2 years I was being promoted. Every 2 years I was taking on new things. I took on the corporate sales department at one point. I took on strategic initiatives and liaison with the university. So the president's office and working with those guys. I just knew how to kind of see like the undercurrent of what, like the heartbeat, frankly, of what really was necessary to be focused on. I knew how to amplify it. I knew how to connect to human emotion. And therefore I knew how to sell tickets, and I knew how to get butts in seats and get people, hearts in the room, if you will. And
not get distracted.
Yeah. I mean, and it was, but I love the variety. I love that it was like, okay, we're doing pack the arena for the volleyball team to help them break the attendance record. And then like season tickets for men's hockey are going on sale, and also women's hockey, which is a very different experience of trying to sell women's sports in a Division I male dominated environment when it comes to the revenue structure, but
Sure.
also being a female athlete and being like, I'm going to step up for my sisters. And so trying to figure out how to create that balance of 7 ticketed sports and seasons all happening like this. I mean, I literally loved it. I would design all of the posters for the teams. I was like up, learning Photoshop but I loved the having to learn. I loved the challenges I was being presented with along the way. And so then I did that for 10 years. And towards the end of I would say the last 3 years of my career there, I just was kind of getting the itch and the urge to do something different. And I had always had a call on my heart to help people, to help people think differently, to help people show up differently in their lives, to stand in their power, to follow their dreams. And I had been doing all that kind of coaching with my coworkers and with my students I was mentoring. I taught sport marketing at the university for a few years as well. I love to help people and see them and then tease out the uniqueness within them to help them get on a path to their joy and to do what they really wanted to do in their life, no matter what that was. And so I started getting into personal development. I was a competitive fitness athlete. I was doing those fitness physique shows. I was, again, challenging myself to do the things that seem impossible that I don't want to do. I'm a girl. I've walked on fire. I've jumped off cliff. If there's a hard thing to do, I want to have the experience of learning through that really crazy hard thing, because I know I'm only going to grow from it. And I thrive on that. So I did those competitions, but what I saw behind the scenes was how my coaches had built these businesses, how they were doing coaching, how they had built this amazing studio that women were flying in from all over the country to come and be part of these weekend events she had. And I was like, ooh, she's a really smart businesswoman. And I was watching how she was doing the online version of it and creating the recurring payments with their monthly memberships. And I just thought, this is really cool. And I think that this is something I'm going to need to figure out how to do myself. I have no credibility in this right now. I don't feel like I can do this, but I'm noted. And when I became a mom and I had a near-death experience during my daughter's birth, which was the universe's way of saying, are you going to go? Are you going to do this now? Are you ready? I launched my business 8 months after her birth, and I worked from home in the nap time hustle with my online business as a branding coach, a business coach, helping people build their own businesses, from scratch. That were in alignment with what their dreams were. I knew how to help market it. I knew how to help them monetize it. I knew how to help them, pitch it, how to structure that back end, what their offerings look like, all of those things. And it was just was so fun for me. And we built that business, in our first 12 months, we did hit 6 figures. And that was my goal. I was like, we're going to do that. I really, really wanted to set the bar to get there. And we did. And now the business has elapsed, over 1.5 million and revenue over the course of these 4.5-ish years. And it's been really cool. It's been a really cool, rocket ship ride of personal growth and development, the fire hose of that, of getting to know yourself better and kind of figure it out as you go, with each little step along the way.
And you've accomplished so much in the process. You retired your husband from whatever work he was doing. He's now active in the business with you as well.
Yeah. He was a police officer for 11 years. And in 2017, we retired him in July. So it's coming up on his 2-year anniversary of that. And what's really cool about that piece is and I just want the folks who are watching this or listening to this to hear, these choices to retire Ben, it wasn't just, because it's the cool thing to do. No, it was because the goal when I left my corporate career was I want to be present for the life that I'm living and the people that are in it. We want to be more together than we are apart. We don't have a family so that we never see each other. We don't have a home so we never actually get to be in it. Our home is our sanctuary. It's our favorite place to be. Together is where we want to spend our time. Obviously, as a mom, I'm like, please go outside and please go far away so I can have my own time. But you know what I'm saying? There is that piece, and Ben's career was just not in alignment anymore. My job was just not in alignment for the highest calling of our lives anymore. It served its purpose. And so for us to stay in those roles is actually the opposite of contribution. And so it's when that ship has sailed and it's time to, and so you just have to be really courageous to go do that. And so we did. And we make more money now than we ever have, when we were both in solid jobs. And so I think it's really cool to show, what can happen. And I believe, and I know you believe this, Liz, it's just the money is just a byproduct. You know, the money is just like, it's one of the cool things that you get as a result of like honoring the call and yes, and being responsible about it and doing the due diligence, but really having fun, you know, like really having a good time in this process and remembering that that's actually the point.
Yeah. To be able to spend time with those you love and doing things that you love to do. And oh, by the way, we can support ourselves and pay a mortgage and send our kids to school and whatever.
That's right. That's right.
What was, okay. So it's a pretty big transition to move into your own business, much less bring a spouse into it.
Yeah.
I'm curious what some of the hurdles have been between the two of you in working together, you know, in tandem in this way. And then also from the financial lens. Yeah.
I think that the hurdle number one would just be like understanding each other's styles and needs, you know, and Ben's work style is very different from mine. He doesn't get emotionally wrapped up in anything at all. So he has a podcast production sort of arm of the business where he is working with mostly female entrepreneurs, a couple guys, in helping them with the production of their podcasting, getting them out, like doing that whole thing. And there'll be times where he's just like working on it and the thing needs to go out like the next day. And I'm just like, oh my God, you know, like, have you communicated? Are you, you know, and he's just like, yeah, everything's fine. And, you know, a client will elapse or they'll decide they're going to do something different. And he's just like, yeah, it's no big, it's great, you know, and he'll have a new client come in and he's like, yeah, it's great. Like he just doesn't get emotionally wrapped up in any of it. And he's been a great teacher for me around that because I'm, you know, he's the rock to my role. And that's the balancing act that we play with each other. You know, he supports at live events and he's handling all the technical stuff and working with the back of the house to make sure that sound and lighting and all those things are set, you know, the way they need to be. He's like the liaison with the team because when I'm doing events, it's hard for me to be managing any of those things.
No, you can't.
Putting my headset on me. He's like, yeah. And so and I think the cool part is that our relationship, our love, you know, has deepened even more because he's really finding his own stride and his confidence in what he does. I'm allowing him just to do that, not trying to micromanage. And I'm able to fly in the areas where I do things and ask for what I need. And so it's just helped us, you know, in a profound way, but we've had to be patient. You know, there were some bumps and moments where I was just like, what's your big vision? Why don't you have one? Why don't you know, and he's like, I'm living it, honey. Like, this is my dream. Like being, oh, right. I'm the one that's like, you know, and he's the like, here. Yeah.
I love that so much because it's easy to forget when you're driven and you have big things that you want to do. It's so easy to forget and wonder why aren't you along with me on this ride? It doesn't mean that our partners or our family or our close friends aren't with us, but they're not going to have exactly the same vision. They can't because they're not necessarily the lead on this rocket ship.
That's right. That's right. And then just like letting them be exactly how they are, it frees us both to really shine in the realms that are most suited for us, frankly.
I love that. So based on where you're at right now in the business, which I think is on track for 7 figures and growing, you know, that's a very different place than a startup, if we want to use that term.
Yeah.
You know? And I know you work with a lot of people who are kind of in the beginning stages of business. Yeah. What is one of the biggest ahas that you've had, not only for your own trajectory, but in working with the women that you work with and what you've seen them go through?
Well, I just think that there's these phases, you know, and I love helping the former version of me, you know, and helping her with the things that her blind spots and helping her save time, you know, just being someone who's like already been down the path and kind of knows what's ahead and just being like, okay, so I already walked down there and I already know, you know, like this is going to come up and this is going to come up and this is the reason why you're feeling this way, most likely. And so I want to support you in that and help you unpack that so that you don't have to like fall in the river and get stuck in the bramble bushes and like skin your knee as much. Like maybe you will a little bit, but maybe I can save you from some injuries along the way because I've already had all of them and more. And so that analogy is just, you know, really what I think this coaching work is all about. And when it comes to ahas, I think at every stage of the game, no matter where you are with your revenue, you're always going to have that feeling of like, can I do this? Or, you know, like, am I good enough? I think that the worthiness question, like it never really goes away. And it always leads me to this share that Oprah gave. I was listening to, I think it was an interview she did at Stanford. It was such a good interview. And she said that every single person, no matter who sits in her chair, with all the interviews, the thousands of interviews she's done, the end of the interview, whether it's like Beyonce, she said, or like a Ku Klux Klan member, honestly, giving spectrum, those people always say, was that okay? At the end of the interview, was that good? And so I don't think it's like that's not going to go away. So just learn to know that about yourself, that we always want to do the best we can. And we're a little bit uncertain. And that's why having guides on your path to help you and to reinforce for you. And then also going through the experiences. Like, I just want my soul sisters, the women that I'm coaching, to try things out. And so I'm an activator. I'm helping them take action, because every time we take action, we get feedback. And we learn something and we get data. It's like every time I've done a launch, I get data. Oh, well, that was amazing. That was great. Like, wow, that was a $40,000 launch. Great idea. Oh, that was terrible. Let's not do that again. That was a tank, like, okay, good feedback. And the only way you're going to get that feedback is by trying things out. And so if you're getting in your way because you don't think you're worthy, and it stops you from taking action, well, you're never going to learn. So I just want to, say to anyone listening to this, you got to jump in. Like, you got to jump in, and it will be more fun and it'll be less challenging if you have someone there to help you and help you learn how to swim in this new, arena that you are tackling.
Definitely. And I love how you combine sort of what I call the ticky-tacky stuff and this bigger picture thinking, because I think a lot of times if we get the courage to try it, that's the first step. But the real wealth is wrapping back around and seeing, actually reviewing what it did, right? That's what financial work is all about in a nutshell, is what happened so that we can make a better plan for the future, right? We had a $40,000 launch, but we spent 50. Maybe we need to tweak that, right? Like, obviously there's interest, but there's maybe an operational thing that we can shift. Or, wow, that was just, totally nobody showed up for that. The languaging was wrong, whatever it might be. But the analysis part is so critical to our ability to continue growing.
It's so fun. I mean, I love looking at all that data and getting that. And I think at the beginning, I felt scared to look at it. Because again, remember, you're making it about your worth. Right. Here's the deal. Let's just break this on down. You were born worthy. So if you know that you came in worthy, just like, and I'm just going to use this because this helps, just like your children were, just like whoever it is you love the most in your life, then you can stop with that question mark and stop trying to fill that bottomless pit with money, with followers, with subscribers, with, accolades or affirmations, and just say, oh, okay, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be for my evolution and expansion. And I need to stop making it about something else that is basically irrelevant because I was born worthy.
Right. Right. Well, it's very much like, you saying that your husband doesn't take the emotional side of things. Mine doesn't either, as a scientist, right? He's just like, it's just the things. What's the deal?
It's fascinating.
And there's definitely, a male-female version of that. But I do think that as women, we can borrow some of that for ourselves.
Oh, I learned from him. I am obsessed. I'm like, his dad will invite him over for dinner. I just love learning from these guys. His dad will invite him over for dinner, and it'll be like, an afternoon. He's like, nope, I'm all set. And I'm like, what do you mean? You're like, he doesn't give a reason.
What?
He just says no. He's like, no, but like maybe Thursday. He just says no because it doesn't work for him. And he doesn't need to give us a whole reason or whatever. And it's like, oh, Grandpa's busy. He's not coming. And when do we ever do that, sisters? We're always like, we got to give the whole reason. We have to tell the whole life story. No, you can just say it doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a mindset. That's a way of being. But again, it's a valuation of self and honoring of self that is very important to building a strong business and to becoming, a really successful entrepreneur.
For sure. Because we have to have boundaries.
Yes.
And it's so hard to do. If we don't have boundaries for ourselves, we're not going to be able to set boundaries for our business, which means we're not going to feel great about our pricing structures. We're not going to, get the best deal on an event space or whatever it might be because we're so emotionally charged around it.
Right.
And not that we want to let go of that part of who we are as women, because it's also highly creative and highly empathetic, but it's some version of balancing and just being able to take 3 steps back and recognize, oh, wait, I'm the driver in my business, but I am not my business. So decisions that are made there don't reflect on my personal worth.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a good conversation. I love this. What do you think is one of the biggest benefits to you from your lifestyle standpoint of being in this entrepreneurial space? Because it is a lot of work. I mean, we sit there and say you were working 60-hour weeks and now you own your own business. You know, I know how much work it takes to build the kind of business that you built too, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is, but it pales in comparison with the amount of work that I put in there. I mean, and also navigating, and this is any corporate place of work. So this is not a knock on my place of my former employment space at all. The politics and navigating the bureaucracy, the red tape. And when you work in a university setting, I mean, it's beyond just your department. It's the university policies that have to happen for a particular reason. And so there's just like a roundabout way to do everything, and personalities to navigate, and you know, just all of that. And I mean, I am just so grateful I don't have to do that anymore. You know, it just didn't feel authentic to me. I was like, oh, okay, we're not allowed to just say what's real. Like, we're not allowed to tell the truth. Oh, okay, cool. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. I'm such a straight talker, straight shooter. Like, I'm a person that just wants to move the ball forward for the highest good of all involved. And when I realize that that's not always the way that other people operate, I cannot compute that.
I'm the same way. It feels like a waste of time.
Yeah. It's like, why are we wasting our lives, guys? We have an impact to make here. Like, this is redonkulous. And so I don't have to deal with that anymore. It's just literally not part of my daily life. And so I feel like my results are much more direct and they're faster, and I have way more energy than I've ever had because I'm actually supporting myself. Like, I don't have to go through this whole rigmarole of putting on dress pants and torturing my feet in high heels and dressing according to the way that everybody wants me to dress because I have to dress that way in order to be effective in my job. Like, no, I wear yoga pants, you know, and I sit at my desk that's in my house, and my commute is like a 2-second walk, and I don't have to wear shoes if I don't want to. And again, I think here's the thing. That's not for everybody, you know, but it is for me. And I'm going to take my next call out on the dock on the lake, and I'm going to talk to my client outside because it's spring in New England, in New Hampshire, and I'm going to soak up every ounce of that sunshine that I can. And so I have just decided to support the whole of my life, not just one aspect and angle of it. And like, as you know, Liz, before we got on here, my daughter's going to the beach with my husband today. She came up and gave me a kiss, and I got to see her, and she's all excited telling me about going on her boogie board. And I'm not missing the moments of my life I can't get back. And that's the stuff that eats at your soul. That is the stuff that makes you tired. And I don't have that kind of fatigue in my life anymore.
Yeah, I think it's really critical. But I think the other piece of the puzzle that you did touch on, which is it is also not for everyone, because it does take a lot of stamina. And it takes a lot of ability to, right? I mean, it's
pressure. I mean, let's just be real. Like, the lights stay on here because of this business. And I am the primary breadwinner, and it is that. But at the same point, there are moments, of course, where I felt enormous pressure and I've gotten stressed about it. But that was the moment when I forgot that, you know, those moments when I kind of like have that amnesia of, this is what I'm here to do. And this is my joy of joys doing this work. And girlfriend can make it happen. I've created sold out live events. I've sold 5-figure contracts. I can all of everything, built programs from scratch with nobody telling me how to do it, just doing it and putting it out there into the world. And at the end of the day, you know, like, failure is just not an option. It's just not an option. It's off. And I mean, in the whole of my life, like, not just in my business. If my business like dries up, guess what? I'm going to do something different. I'm going to pivot. It's not the end all be all. It doesn't define my worth, as I said. And so I'm just letting myself play. And when things don't feel fun anymore, I stop doing that and I do something that feels more fulfilling. And it's just kind of like the secret to life. I mean, that's really how you can create a fun life, is by actually creating a fun life.
Yeah. How do you maintain that for yourself? Because I think a lot of people out there, myself included, and I talk to a lot of people who say this is true, we start out with this idea that, you know, this is going to be fantastic. And we have fantasies about having more time with our families, more flexibility in our schedules, and doing work that we really love. And then it starts to feel kind of like a grind because you want to grow to that next level. And that requires a lot of work. And what do you guys do to stay on, to kind of remind yourselves for the fun part of it as you grow and as the business sort of takes on its own? We were talking about this before. It becomes its own sort of entity, and you're a piece of it, but you aren't the business anymore.
I think it's two things. It's one, so my company is a transformational coaching for entrepreneurs company, but also it's a live events company. And I love live events. I love being with people in the room. I love being able to hug people and look into their eyes and breathe life into their dreams and to workshop with them and break out the whiteboard. And so that energizes me. And it's also a great sales opportunity because you're leading people back to programs, and I really thrive on it. That might not be forever. I don't know, but it is right now. And so like I'm doing a new live event in September that I've never done before that I'm super excited about, which is like a blend of the two live events that I've done, mastermind retreats, and then my Ignite Your Soul Summit large live event. And it's like I'm taking the two of those things and kind of putting them together and creating a business workshop for people, for entrepreneurs who are ready to like really roll their sleeves up and workshop their businesses. And so that live event feels thrilling to me, as you can tell just as I speak about it. I'm writing my first book. I am also welcoming in support in my business in ways that I haven't before, and some really, some coaching at a high level for myself, for my own evolution, and for my being challenged and pushing myself into this next realm. So I think this is it, where are you being challenged? Where are you inviting in support? If you're getting stagnant, it's because you're getting stagnant. And so you get to then offer yourself the opportunity, like, where do I want to grow right now? It might just be you need a vacation. It might just be that you need to kind of relook at how you're like asking yourself, when I look at my calendar for the week, where do I feel the most dread? Where do I feel tired? And then examine, why am I still doing this then? And what tweaks could I make? And what like subtle changes could I add? Which might just be, you need to book out one day a week where you're not getting on the phone at all. You're not doing work. You have a day off in the middle of the week, because guess what? We have the luxury to create that because these are our businesses.
Yeah, I think so often we wake up and find ourselves having recreated a traditional 9-to-5 environment for ourselves, when that was exactly why we wanted to get into a business for ourselves in the first place, in addition to obviously making
I will insert, there are a lot of reasons for that, and that's mindset stuff, and that's the work that I do with my clients, because it's we were raised in this society, we were brought up in this like pay your dues, get permission, that whole it must
be hard.
Yeah, like it must be hard. I don't what do you mean easy? I need to struggle. I need to strive. And so that's where we have to have a deeper conversation and help you break those patterns, because those are the patterns that are causing your suffering.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. All right. So I always ask everybody this question. I'm curious from your perspective, what Zen money means for you.
Zen money means financial serenity to me. And just really being at one and at peace with the flow of your finances, and how the finances are a lifeblood of a business, and they matter. They really matter. And however that flow is going is a reflection of the health of that business. And it doesn't, that also doesn't mean it needs to be a 7-figure business. It can be, I'm welcoming in one client a month and it feels really good. Like that to me is Zen money. So it's making peace with whatever financial serenity means to you and how you want to be welcoming in money in your life, and also sending it out, and really just being in that sort of cycle of reciprocity that feels really peaceful.
I love that. And I think you touched on something that's really important, which is we are so, again, this sort of overarching driving conversation around more is better.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, right?
It's not.
We can find what the baseline is that just feels really good, and we can figure out how to get there and free up time, for example. There are a lot of people who think that we have to get to 7-8 figures to be quote unquote successful, but that isn't my definition of that. Somebody else's definition might be, I'm taking home $200,000 a year. I'm working X hours a week and I feel like I got a bunch of time and I don't need to go to that next level of complexity and growth.
Right. And team and management and taxes and all this, I have,
not everybody wants it or needs it.
I work like 12, right now I'm in a season about 15 hours a week. And it's always been that way. When I have a live event, that week will be longer because I work through the weekend, but I will take some time and space on the other side. And I just think, I want people to hear this. I've also built a 7-figure business with working 15 hours a week and being a mom, a full-time Mom-Preneur. My daughter, we homeschooled last year. So I just want people to know that, you can create it any which way you want to create it. You just need to figure out what that's going to look like. And you got to get crystal clear on what your vision is so that you can actually energize it and start moving towards it.
Yeah. Exactly. There are a million different ways to build a successful business. It doesn't have to fit a particular model. And I'm all about growth. If that's where we want to go, let's go. But on the flip side, that creates a lot of stress for a lot of people if we're just doing that kind of blanket wholesale without thinking it through the why.
Yeah. And sustainable growth is where it's at.
Yeah, for sure. Amber, thank you so much for having this conversation with me today, this Zen Money Monday. I know you had briefly mentioned the event that you have coming up, but can you share a little bit more about that? So where people can hear about
thank you. It's called Accelerate Live, and it will help you. The tag is Ignite Your Influence, Your Impact, and Your Income. And the mission is really to align the deeper questions about what it is that you want to create in your world and the strategy to get there. And so we will have some guest speakers coming in talking about some of the most important parts of the back end of business. We'll be talking about marketing. We're going to be talking about the legal stuff. We're going to be talking about building a socially conscious business, just touching on all these pieces, but really helping you spend 2 full days working on your business, right? Like really working on it and thinking about how you want the last quarter of the year in 2020 to look like. It's September 26th and 27th, and it's in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So you can fly into Manchester or into Boston, and we have amazing hotels. Portsmouth in September is literally heaven on earth.
It's a great place to be.
Oh my gosh, it's just magical. And it's just going to be amazing. And as I was saying, I have the Ignite Your Soul Summit event where we had 400 people. This is a smaller event. It's more intimate. And you're going to get to workshop with people. You're going to get to do some masterminding, and it's just going to be really awesome. So you can go to amberlilyestrom.com/accelerate live to grab your seat and learn more about what's going to be going on at that event. And I would just so love to rock with you guys for those few days.
Awesome. We will post notes on how to connect with Amber, how to follow her on Instagram. She's got a great feed, and more about her event in September. Thank you so much for joining me today, Amber. It was a treat.
Thanks, Liz.
All right, live stream is off. I'm going to stop recording.